Hey everybody, welcome back to Finding Korea. I'm Katie and we're here to talk all things Korea as I head back to the country where I was born. Today is part 2 of my conversation with Jenna Lee Kim. If you haven't listened to part 1, go back and do that first. It will make a lot more sense and we'll be waiting for you right here. For everybody else, this half turns outward. We talk about what Korean society actually thinks of adoptees, what's happening right now with Korean adoption records, how our bodies remember more than we think that we do, the story behind her name, and so much more. Let's get into it. And what about, like, how does Korean society view Korean adoptees? Like, is there a lot of confusion when they meet you, like, expect you to speak Korean and then you kind of tell them your story? Like how does society, or, I mean, I guess you could probably only mostly speak to Jeju, but, like, yeah, how have you found that reception to be?
Well, okay, so I will tell you that 10, 15 years ago, because I know enough Korean adoptees who have been here that long, which, by the way, I cannot even believe, they came before, like, translation apps. I don't know how they did it. And Korea was far less foreigner friendly 10, 15 years ago. Horror stories of like cab drivers who at the time are like in their 60s, 70s, like just being very unkind and crotchety and mean. And what do you mean you're Korean and you don't speak Korean? I mean, there's like the older generation has a little bit of that sentiment. So I have fortunately not had to experience that. I've had some crotchety cab drivers. They're all terrible drivers. But when I get in the cab, I
Guess the
know
stereotype comes from somewhere, huh?
yeah, exactly. I get in the cab and I know enough Korean to tell them like I apologize, for whatever they're mad at me about. I'm American. I was adopted. My father is from Mokpo. My mother is from Gwonju. And that is enough for even the crankiest old ajashi to say, oh, and I can tell that they like, oh, I get it now. It's not pity, it's like understanding, like, oh, this is why you don't speak Korean. This is why, you're not just like an American who's coming over here and like, yeah. And your parents are from a really cool place in Korea. They are part of the democratic movement of Southwest Korea, which nobody ever talks about because everybody goes to Busan and Seoul. But the southwest part of the peninsula this is why we have a democracy the way we have it in Korea, because of my people in our, I'm going to write about this someday because it fills me with a lot of pride to know that my people come from this area of Korea that nobody ever talks about, but is like central to the Korea of today. So I get that reaction. But I will tell you, based on very unscientific anecdotal research, that people our age-ish, at least, give or take 10 years, so I have to imagine the whole country, they are not talking about adoption and the fact that the president just apologized to us, the NCRC, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the reporting.
What is the NCRC? You mentioned that earlier, and I meant to ask. And then,
It's the National Center for the Rights of the Child
okay.
in Korea. Now, I don't know enough about it to know if this is a new organization with the government or not, but they are the ones who are responsible now for collecting all of the records from all of the adoption agencies. Because after the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report and official findings that human rights violations did happen in Korea during all of the height of adoption, the NCRC, I don't know, I'm curious, I'm gonna have to research this. I don't know if it was just formed or if it's always been around. But they are now the ones responsible for all of the record keeping for adoptions because the Korean government said, no, agencies are now no longer allowed to hold these records. We are going to take them. We're going to put them in a centralized location and we're going to have one process for adoptees to inquire about their records and then we'll give them all the information. The problem with that, though, is that, in my opinion, and based on the ears that we have on the ground, there's actually an adoptee advocacy group here in Korea with adoptees who are called Ears on NCRC. And they said, we don't want to be a permanent group. Like, we hope that we're a temporary group. But someone has to keep an eye on this. Someone has to keep ears on NCRC to make sure that they really are carefully storing our records. And there's already been some that have been lost. There's already been a breach of data. And so they are going to work with the government, this group of adoptees, doing the work to say, like, we're watching you. Like, you can't just, willy-nilly with 200,000 records. We want to make sure that you're doing right by us. So in my opinion, and from what I've seen, the government had, let's assume good intent, an idea to centralize this to make it easier for us. But, probably not enough money to fund it appropriately, to have enough staffing, to build out a database. All of this stuff has to be digitized. Everything has, we're talking thousands and thousands, probably millions of papers, right? And now they've got a big backlog of adoptees who are filling out the little form saying, hi, I want my information. And now there's a 6 month, 6, 8, 9, probably a year wait to get information. So,
Oh, dang.
yeah, so it's long and it's arduous, and that's what's going on. So that's what the NCRC is. Again, I'm not sure when maybe they've always been around, or maybe this is an ad hoc group for all of this. But when you hear that, that's the organization that's now in charge of all of our records. So
Got it.
all the stuff that I went through happened just before all of this happened.
Okay.
And each agency was a little bit of a well-oiled machine. Some had better processes than others. Some were more corrupt than others. Some were more secretive than others. Again, very unscientific, but from the 400 stories I've heard, there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason sometimes. I think it's whatever social worker you get that day.
Sure.
I sort of say 15 people had to be doing their job and not be lazy the day that my information came through. Because if any one of those people had been I don't feel like looking, or, oh, I forgot, or I wouldn't have known. I never would have questioned it, ever. Because I assumed there was no information. So if no information came up, I would have been okay.
Yeah.
So that was one tiny piece, and I have since pretty well gotten over it, but there is a lot of residual, retroactive anxiety. What if I had gone my whole life without looking into this because it never occurred to me to look? Or what if it occurred to me 30 years from now and then it's too late because everyone's gone?
Yeah.
There was a lot of blame, because I'm very quick to blame myself. We all are. It's very easy to blame yourself. Why didn't I? How, I should have. If anybody listening to this has ever thought remotely down that line about any piece of this, you have to stop. Because there are such huge societal, historical, governmental, systemic, and close, very personal reasons that we didn't know.
Yeah.
We had everything working against us. People who loved us, who thought they were doing the right thing, or maybe it just didn't occur to them, or they just didn't know, or, heck, they're trying to raise children and keep food on the table. So the last thing on their minds is, hey, maybe are there birth records for Jenna, in Korea?
Yeah.
Whatever the reason. And then, just a lot of opinions about adoption, and hey, you're lucky. And I will tell you, back to your original question, Koreans are not talking about it, was my whole point about talking about NCRC. They don't know. The government is certainly not advertising to its own people that, hey, we really messed up back in the 80s. People don't know. More Americans know than Koreans. They only kind of see adoption stories in K-dramas, and maybe someone in their family was adopted, but they don't talk about it. This is a very Confucian, honor, shame-based, familial society. And so they're not going to talk about how auntie so-and-so once had a baby and we don't know where that baby went. It's just not happening.
Yeah.
And so when they learn that I'm adopted, friends who are my age, Koreans, and I tell them my story, they get very emotional because mine's a very happy story, right? They help me translate letters and texts from my appa, and they're just like, he loves you so much, but they can't really even fathom, because again, it's not their story. They grew up with their family, and they kind of can't imagine
Well, I think it's also really hard. You were talking earlier about representation, and that is also something I think a lot about. And, like for so much of my life growing up, like Princess Jasmine was like my favorite Disney princess, who it's looked nothing like me, but like she was the closest I had
And everybody
until
said you
Mulan
look
came
like
out.
Princess Jasmine, right? First Pocahontas, then Princess Jasmine, and then Mulan. You look like all the the brown
Yeah.
Disney princesses.
And like that's just like so important that you just like never realize. And then when I think about like adoption represented in film and TV and stuff, like it doesn't happen very often. It doesn't get talked about very often. And like when people ask me about my adoption or like they find out about it and they're like, "Oh, like they feel they like want to tread lightly because they feel like oh, like can I ask you questions about it?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Um and I think that they feel uncomfortable asking questions, or they think it might make me feel uncomfortable because no one ever talks about it. And
Because they're
there's,
uncomfortable. They assume you're uncomfortable because they're uncomfortable. Yes.
yeah, yeah, just because it's never around. And so, like, if we were to talk about it more and see it more and normalize it more, I would hope that it would be easier to talk about. And anyway, yeah, I just think that representation part of it is so important because otherwise, like, how could you understand or even begin to try to like empathize with that situation because you really don't have any idea.
Well, there's so many, again, whole other episode, but there's so many very mainstream stories in Hollywood that the adoption piece just goes over our head. But like Superman, Luke Skywalker, Elf, I mean, all of these characters are adopted. But adoption, to your point,
Oh, that's so
if you
true.
look at it, has been what you try to do as a storyteller is you want to gain sympathy and, empathy for a character. What better way than if this character is an orphan? Or if this, and so in mainstream American Hollywood storytelling, we don't talk about the birth family because it is so lucky that this child or person has its current family. And often the birth mother, if she is mentioned, is vilified. Like, how dare you keep your baby when this family wanted a baby so badly and you're poor? That
Yeah.
trope happens over and over to the point where I had to really think critically about it because there was a reason I didn't want to meet my birth mother right away. Because I had enough self-awareness having gone, I was like halfway through to where I am now and still a long way to go. But I had to really, because I had questioned so many other things at that point in my life. I was now, okay, here's one more thing. I have to like dig down deep and figure out why I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And I realized, oh, I'm super blaming her because I have kids of my own. How could
Yeah.
she? Why would
Oh,
she?
that's interesting. Yeah.
And then I realized that part of it was I was very judgmental and kind of pissed at her. And it wasn't just because I'm a mom. That was actually kind of the least of it. It was because of all of the messaging that I realized I was getting. So I had to really confront myself, challenge, and then I meet her and I found out that everything that I had thought or was fearful about, and even a lot of things my appa from his side of the story, and that was valid for him, it was all wrong. It was like not anything close to what happened, and everything that I was judging her for was out of her control, and it's a different culture. So, like, you know, I was looking at it from a very Western point of view, and she
Sure.
had very Eastern, Confucian, Korean things that she had to contend with, and a family who had to contend with it too. And so, yeah, that's a really big point to your point of representation and how what are these messages we're giving young people without even realizing it
Yeah. Yeah.
that we carry forward into our real lives.
Yeah, exactly. Would you say, are there things that since moving to Korea and exploring more of that side of you, are there things that you have picked up and changed and adapted to because you're like, oh, Koreans do this and I really like this and I'm going to start like incorporating it into my life and things like that?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm very vain. So most of it has to do with fashion and appearances, which I was really realizing when I was in Vietnam this past spring because I felt so free there. I mean, I was on vacation, but also like Southeast Asians are they are laid back. It is too hot to worry about anything other than like
Yeah.
staying cool. And I was really recognizing how in Korea I have developed a very, okay, well, I'm Korean. I don't want to explain myself the way I've had to explain myself my whole life. So I do want to try to fit in as much as possible. Plus, as a bonus, I like Korean fashion. I'm really into it. I sort of, so, I mean, my hair is not this straight, right? I have gotten it straightened. I have the Korean curl under and cut. I've started doing skincare, and there's just things that are very, very Korean. I mean, I was already wearing black all the time, so I was like, great, got that down. But there's a very real Korean thing. And I am also extremely American. I think that has actually been more so than realizing the things that make me Korean. Nothing points out your Americanness than when you are in a different country for a long time. But what's interesting is that there's other things I realized subconsciously in the States in recent years when I started meeting like older Koreans and just Koreans in general, which I met more Korean Americans my last year in America than I did my whole,
Wow.
I mean, not including adoptees. So I was sort of like center stage in the height of the Stop AAPI Hate movement. Everybody wanted to talk to like an Asian mayor, and there I was, feeling super Asian. So I was meeting a lot of Korean Americans, and what I realized is I was bowing to people without realizing I was bowing to people. Because when you pass
Interesting.
an Asian person, like in the city or on the streets, there is like a bowing thing that kind of happens. In a way that like I'm not bowing to white people, right? So
Yeah.
there are some inherent things that have kind of like come up for me, but it's been more realizing how American I am than it has been seeing like how I'm Korean, even being over here. So that's been a whole journey.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I left the States 11 years ago and have been living abroad in various different continents and countries
That's
since
very
then.
cool.
And every place that I go, I see that as well. It's like, oh, yeah, this thing that I do is very much from what I took from the US. Or like I do like to pick up stuff along the way where I go and be like, oh, I like that the, Italians do this or that the Thais do this or whatever. But looking back, I think a part of that as well is also just like trying to find myself as well and just kind of going around the world and deciding kind of which parts of which cultures that I like because I do feel very much at home in the States and it will always be home to me, but I also have built homes around the world and feel like I'm good at that. And I think it's because I was, different in the States, and so it's not weird to be different in other places
I think
as
that's such
well.
good insight. Yeah, I like that very much. Yes.
It's interesting because now I'm in Kazakhstan, and this is the first place that, I mean, the first place that I think I look like other people. In Southeast Asia, I don't know if that happened to you, but like everyone thought I was from any country that I went to. So in Thailand, everyone thought I was Thai, and I was like, I don't look at all Thai, but okay. And then in Indonesia and Vietnam, literally every country, like every Asian country I've been to, they always think I'm from that country. I'm like, no. But here I do look pretty Kazakh, and I don't
Really?
speak a word of Kazakh. And I try not to speak Kazakh because, like, I can say thank you, but I don't. So they speak Kazakh and Russian here, and so I don't speak Kazakh because then they think that I'm Kazakh, and then it just goes downhill from there. So I'm like,
Yes.
no, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that
I
happens in
really
Korea
don't
too.
understand.
Yeah, like, and to be fair, in Korea, the Koreans who try to say, "Oh, I don't speak English," and you're like, "Yeah, you do." So I think they do think I'm lying. Like when I introduce myself in Korean, and then they start to like, no, no, really, that's all the Korean I know.
Yeah.
Truly, I can order
Is that
sushi.
anything that you're interested in
What's that?
learning, or are you
Oh,
interested at all in learning Korean, or?
yeah, so I am. I am. I have a really good friend who's studying linguistics in his PhD program, Corey Lemke. He's doing great things. And he speaks Korean. He will say he's not good at it, but he is. But he just sort of said, if you can just pick up one phrase or one word a week. I mean, that's a lot of words after a year, right?
Hmm.
And for a little while I was doing pretty well. But there are moments when I wake up and realize, oh, I understand what that means like in a conscious way, in a way that I didn't last month. This is such a cop out, but I really don't watch K dramas. I'm not really listening to K pop. And I'm not cooking Korean food and I'm not speaking the language. But here's why. I feel like because I live here, I can walk out my door, and I do every day, and I hear Korean, and I'm doing my best to speak it when I can. Although, I live in a lot of English speaking areas. I can walk out my door and get Korean food anytime I want. So I'm in my apartment cooking Thai and Vietnamese instead, because you can't really get good Thai and Vietnamese and Korean. And when my kids go to bed, it's when everybody on the East Coast is waking up. So I'm like talking to them. I'm not really watching TV.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I am telling myself, again, this is a very cop-out answer, that if and when, and I believe when, I move back to the United States, that's when, well, I'm not going to be in Korea anymore. So I better learn how to cook some Korean stuff, and I better keep up with my language. Honestly, some of it is laziness, but also I've been so busy trying to literally keep my heat on over here that there just hasn't been time to take lessons.
Yeah.
And
now
now I feel like I've made it on the other side of something, and I want to travel and sit at cafes and do fun things. I don't want to be studying Korean because I know I'm not natural at it. But it is helpful. It is so helpful to hear the vowels when you're over here. It's really, really helpful because it's just not anything like English does.
I really love languages and I'm interested in learning them. I went to China and that was the first country that I'd been where they don't speak English. And so that was humbling. And I was like, oh, when I come back, I'm going to have learned Mandarin. Also, that would be a great thing to have on my resume, blah, 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 all these good reasons to learn Mandarin.
Would.
I go home to start learning Mandarin. And the sounds that were coming out of my mouth, because, it's very tonal, it's the sounds that people make at Asians when they're making fun of Asians. And I was super traumatized. I did not like these sounds coming out of my mouth. I've spent my whole life trying to get away from being Asian and people thinking that I'm Asian. And I had all of this trauma come up that I was like, oh no, I guess I am not ready to do that.
Isn't that interesting? I've had the same thing.
Yeah. So,
yes.
I'm worried about that happening. I don't know. In a way, I'm not worried about that happening in Korean because the sounds are different than the kind of the ching chang chong that people will yell at you. But obviously inherently it is an East Asian language, and so there's probably going to be some of that stuff that comes up.
What you're saying is, it took me, I was probably here a good year and a half before I would even try, because even though Korean, it's actually up for debate whether Korean is tonal. It's not, but also people say words really specifically with a tone. So it's not tonal, but it's part of the culture to be tonal, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so many words are Western, just Korean. When you go into a cafe and you're like, iced Americana. It feels like I'm making fun of myself. Like I've had that exact feeling. Or when you're
I couldn't do that. I don't know if I could do that.
Kopi. I mean, it's not kopi. An American would say, oh, kopi. You have to say it like a Korean, so it's kopi.
Oh man,
and
that I think would get me.
Yeah, it's very hard.
I have to do that. I have to do that when I'm speaking Spanish and Italian, and so I have to say things like, oh, what did you graduate in? And I say marketing. And they're like, huh? Marketing, huh? Marketing. And they're like, oh, and it's fun. I don't feel weird speaking in an Italian accent, or when I say names of celebrities, I'll be saying a movie and then who's that with? And I'll say the name in my US accent and they're like, what? And then I have to say Michael B. Jordan or whatever, but with the accent.
I love that.
That's fine because it's Italian and who cares? But in a Korean, I didn't even think about that. Having to say things in a Korean way, oh man, that would get me.
It does, and then you realize how much internalized crap you have, and it takes a while. And now I feel comfortable with it. These 17 Korean words and phrases that I know I can say really well in Korean, and so I feel comfortable with it. And then at home. In the States, I sound like I'm speaking fluent Korean to people who don't know. So now I really lean into it, But yeah, it's It's wild. It is wild. And what's really annoying, the most annoying thing about the language thing is how we make fun of, in the West, people make fun of Asians for not being able to say the L, right? Well, just eat. I don't actually know if this happens. I guess I could ask my Korean friends, but I don't think so. They could very easily make fun of Western folks for not being able to say L because there's a really clear reason, at least I don't know if it's the same in Mandarin, but in Korean, the RL sound is so hard. It is such a hard sound to make, like for a Westerner to say the Korean version. So I'm always wondering, I wonder if Koreans are making fun of Westerners for the way that we say L.
I'm sure they are. I don't know, but I mean, I think in Mandarin they don't have
They don't have an L sound.
either they don't
Maybe.
have the R and they have the and they say the L, and the L comes out when they speak English, or it's the opposite, because it just literally doesn't exist. And
Yes.
so in English, when you have to like say that sound, it comes out the closest to the R is the L. But people who don't speak other languages just like don't know like how hard it is for your mouth to form
A
sounds that
new
you've like
sound.
never.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is what. So in Korean, and I actually don't know the logistical reason for this, but the end of a word, if the end of a word is a consonant, in Korean, they just want to add the to the end. So it's not a cup, it's a cup, cup. And I've tried my hand at like tutoring adults and children in English. I don't have any qualifications other than I speak English. And I've tried, no, cup, and they can't do it. They want to say cup.
Okay, that is crazy that you say that. And maybe I'm just grasping at straws here because sometimes I do that. But whenever I talk to my dad, I talk to him in a little bit of a whiny voice. And I don't know if it's my mom or my brothers or even somebody will had pointed out, like, whenever you talk to dad, like, you say, like, dad, and I put, like, the at the end of a bunch of words. And it's only when I talk to him, I think, or
Interesting.
maybe it isn't. Maybe it's when I talk to anybody, but I think it was pointed out when I was talking to him, and I notice it more because just kind of the relationship that we have, the kind of goofy relationship we have, I guess. And I mean, I'm sure it doesn't really come from that. I left Korea when I was like 4 months old, so I did not have any language skills or whatever, or much exposure to any of that. But still, that is like a very similar like sound and thing, and I don't know. That's really interesting.
Yeah, and who knows where this comes from? I mean, my next book I will probably read is the Primal Moon thing, but just how much I mean, I will tell you. I mean, I think I was raised to believe this not on purpose, but also maybe as a coping skill. But I was very much like, you're a baby. Babies are a clean slate. They don't remember anything. I don't have any memories from the time I was one. So my life started when I got off that plane. I either told myself that or my mother kind of explicitly made me think that way. I don't know. But this whole the body keeps the score thing, I mean, 5 years ago, I would have been like, well, that's such baloney. Like, what is this hocus pocus? Like, but I think actually there's some scientific data behind this. So if I was me telling me this 5 years ago, I would not have believed me. But I got to my appa's house. It wasn't even the first time. It was maybe a year or so in, and his wife served me the seaweed soup, which you eat on your birthday and like all this stuff. There is zero way I had seaweed soup in the United States. I mean, we didn't even go out for American Chinese food. So there's zero way that I ever would have tried this, right? And I remember it was on the plane ride moving here. So a year after I had first come to Korea,
Okay.
we were on like Asiana Air or something, and they gave us seaweed soup. So I was a good sport. I tried it, and I had a reaction. Like, this
Really?
is so familiar. Like, this I've had before. It like overwhelmed me. There I am on an airplane eating
Whoa.
airplane seaweed soup, right? And I had a very, because I was a little older. I was 11 months old or ish when I got to the States. So
Okay.
I asked my appa like as much as I could when his wife served it to me. I was like, did I have this as a baby? And he kind of looked at me like, yeah. Like all Korean babies, all Korean kids, Korean mothers, like as soon as you have a baby, you eat seaweed soup. At every birthday, you eat seaweed soup.
Wow.
And so I was like, Oh God, it's real. Like my body remembers things, you know. And I have a girlfriend,
That's
my
wild.
friend who I went on that tour with. Now she was older. She was like 4 or 5 when she got to the States. But the
Oh,
first
okay.
time, now this is long before the BTS thing, like 4 or 5 years ago, when she first heard Arirang, she was like, Jenna, I recognize this song. And I was like, yeah, of course you recognize it. It's like the most popular song in Korea. And she was like, well, but she's never heard it. She grew up in Pennsylvania, you know? So when she first heard it, she was like, oh, I've heard this song before, you know? I mean, we
Wow.
do. We have things. So yeah, I mean, it's not, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that you would add an to the end of a word. It's 4 months is a long time, and 9 months in like a belly is a long time. You know,
Yeah, that's true.
we internalize stuff. I don't know.
Do you have any advice for people who are starting this journey or maybe who aren't quite ready to start this journey and are just, kind of at the very beginning stages of looking into things?
Yes, I have so much advice. The thing that the thing that comes to mind first, so I guess I'll say that, is don't be hard on yourself. Like I said before, myriad of things working against each of us to keep us from even starting to open our brain. And we haven't even touched on the fact that it didn't feel safe. It doesn't feel safe to open that door. Why would it? Who among you and your friends are going to be able to support you? You know, not even all therapists know what the heck you're going through. So don't be hard on yourself. You are discovering things at exactly the time that you were supposed to. Developmentally, where you are in your journey, like you said. I mean, it was the same thing for me, the pandemic. I suddenly was forced to not have a million things to do. Forced. It was terrible. All the events got canceled. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't see anyone. I was an extrovert on an island in my house. And so that's when I started having space in my brain, like to actually look at the Korean adoptee Facebook groups that I'd been a part of but ignored. I mean, I ignored them. And, so it was just very slowly. I blamed myself for a long time. Again, retroactive anxiety. What if I'd never started this journey and then I never met my appa? Like, ah! But you know what? If I had done this in my 20s, I would have been a wreck. I mean, I barely kept it together with the life experience that I had now. And some of it was only keeping it together because I knew I had been through other challenging things. Like, okay, well, yeah, when you're 20, like what? You would just do it. So you're stronger than you think. Don't be so hard on yourself. And everything will come when it is supposed to. Like if you're like me and a lot of us are perfectionists, people pleasing, like control freaks. We just are. It's how we protected ourselves. There's no shame in that. But you got to give yourself a break because there is that restlessness that I've only been able to tame recently because I've had this luxury. It's a double-edged sword, right? I love working and I love making my own money and I love being able to hang my hat on this is my job and this is my career and here's who I am. And all of that got stripped away when I came to an island in a different country where I don't speak the language and can't get a job. And I'm suddenly no longer Mayor Jenna. Oh yeah, my marriage fell apart and now I have to support all those things. And now the curse has become the blessing because I allowed it. I was forced to, but it was either, well, continue to be upset about it or see if there's advantages. And now I have this luxury of being able to sit in the quiet, which would have been impossible for me to do 5 years ago. Impossible. I wouldn't have allowed it. Well, first of all, my daughter was 1, so I wouldn't have been able to. But my point being, it will come to you when it comes to you. It's equal parts challenging yourself to see a new perspective, allow yourself to be open to new things, allow yourself to go on the journey, trust yourself that you're going to pick up the things when you're ready to pick them up, and try not to take the path of least resistance and challenge yourself. But also, like, if you need to take a step back and not talk to another Korean adoptee for the next month, do it because like we can be a lot. There's some of us who, I'm in the camp of, oh great, like you're on this, come with us, like join the chats, come to the groups, get a tattoo with us. That could be a lot. And then there's the folks who are super in like a stage of like, this all sucks and this was bad and you all need to get on board because this was the worst thing ever. There's that camp too, and that is valid. And those folks' stories, they have a reason for it, and I get it. That can also be a lot, you know? And so we're all in this like individually traumatized. We all have different goals and stories. And so we're trying to do this all together. We're not all going to be friends. But I do think we have something to gain from hearing all these, which is why what you're doing is so important because somebody who's going to be ready to listen to this, it's going to be out there for them and they're not going to feel alone, however they come across you. And that I think is the most important thing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and that is excellent advice, and I think really important to keep in mind because it also is so emotional and mental, and like we get in our own ways a lot, just like being in our head.
Oh, we do. I'm like constantly like I've got a curriculum for myself each year and trying to be self-aware and then the more self-aware you become, like you realize just how not self-aware other people in your life are. I have a friend who is literally coming to Korea for the first time in like 3 days. And he's
Oh,
like,
wow.
I'm finally feeling anxious and nervous. And like literally a couple breaths later is like, I'm so mad at the nurse at my kid's doctor's office for blah, 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 blah. And I said to our other friend, should we tell him he's having a reaction because he's actually feeling anxious about going to Korea? No, we shouldn't tell him. We'll tell him later. We'll tell him later.
Oh, oh
You know,
man.
but like
So
we
true.
just we try so hard to hold on to the things that we are comfortable with. And so how do you challenge yourself to, okay, break away from that a little bit in a way that is a good pace for you? Not so much that you throw yourself off the deep end, but like put your support systems in place and trust yourself that it's going to be okay. The scariest things are invisible. But this community, I have found by and large, we can be a lot, but you will find someone who is the introvert like you are, or the one who doesn't want to talk about any of that stuff, but just wants to eat kimchi jjigae, and that's fine, and that's all you do. Like, you will find the person, and if you don't know someone, contact me. I know them, and I will put the two of you in touch because I know many people.
Amazing. I love that. And then one last question I had is so your last name is super Korean. Did you change it?
Yeah, so oh gosh. So I have my maiden name, very German. I have my married name, very Polish. And so now that I am sort of out there on my own, I did have to sort of think, who do I want to be? Literally and figuratively. So because my life is a simulation, my parents named me Jenna Lee. Two words, one name. Lee is very Korean,
Yeah.
but it's actually was my English background's mother's middle name, spelled the Korean way, which is very funny. Then when I met my brother, my Korean brother, his surname is Lee.
Oh,
And Kim has always been my middle name growing up. So Kim was is my appa's surname. So Jenna Lee Kim was my name growing up with my maiden name. And then I did kind of the
oh.
like I got married, I dropped the Kim, I took my husband's last name. I didn't really even think about it because I was not Korean at that time when I got married. I was far from starting this journey, right? So when he and I separated and I started thinking about like how do I want to be, who am I? Very difficult question, by the way. Who am I? Um, I decided like, yeah, I'm gonna go back to my roots. And what's nice about my roots is that they happen to connect to all sides of my family. The Jenna is very much from my parents in America, who I love and honor. The Lee, by chance, because my life is a simulation, honors my brother and my Oma's side of the family. And the Kim has always been part of me. Some people don't know if their Korean name on their records is really their Korean name, but mine was. My Appa and my Oma, they named me, and it did. That was the kind of the only thing that was accurate on my birth records from the agency. So yeah, Jenna Lee Kim.
Love
It
that.
feels really good. It feels really at home. I mean, my Polish last name, that didn't really fit with me. I quite frankly had a hard time pronouncing my maiden name. So here I am, Jenna Lee Kim. So that's a great question. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, I love that. And will you tell people like how to get in touch with you? Kind of, I know you do like, don't you do retreats and stuff for adoptees? And yeah, can you tell people about your work?
Yeah, thank you. People can find me on Instagram, mayor.jenna.explores, but if you Google Mayor Jenna, you'll find me. I have a Facebook page that's sort of in transition right now. That's the way other people can find me. Exploring with Jenna Lee Kim is my Substack newsletter that I try to put out 2 essays a month. It's mostly for me to keep myself writing and thinking about topics related to all kinds of things: Korean culture, Korean history, my experiences. I have an essay coming up next about yoga and how that connected to like my young self and doing it now in Korea. But you can also listen to those essays because I read them on Spotify. So, Exploring with Jenna Lee Kim or Mayor Jenna, put it into Google, you'll find me. I am thrilled anytime I hear from anybody. And if you happen to find yourself in Korea, it's a quick flight down to the island from Seoul. It's only an hour. Sometimes you can get a flight for $11. It's amazing. The public transportation system in Korea is awesome. So you can come on down here, and yeah, I run I call it a retreat because that's what it ends up being. I meet with Korean adoptees. We spend a day, 2, 3 days together, as long as you can handle me, and I will give you a Jeju Island experience that is catered to what you're interested in. And it is beautiful here. It is not Seoul. It is not Busan. It is island living with beautiful mountains and ocean. And even if you're not into hiking, or, there's something here that just causes you to really stop, slow down, and recenter yourself. Because as we know, coming to Korea is not just a vacation for us. And I'm hoping to be somebody logistically. I can literally help you plan your trip and help you book your hotels and things like that because I know the area in Seoul and Busan and here, which is the main place people go. But also, I just want to be the person who, like, you don't have to think about it. Get here, turn off your brain, allow yourself to think about all the stuff that you have been pushing to the back burner because you've been so concerned trying to just get here, and let me take care of you. I will take you to the restaurants. I will take you to the cafes. If you want to go to the tea museum, if you want to hike a mountain, you don't have to think about it. I'll just take you. We will figure it out together. So that's what I try to be for, not just for Korean adoptees, but because if you've been through it, I've probably been through it, so we can talk about it.
That's very, very cool. Well, Jenna, thank you so much for spending so much time with me today. This is an amazing discussion, and I learned a lot. And yeah, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I love Jenna's advice and just want to reiterate, do not be hard on yourself. Everything comes when it's supposed to, and you are stronger than you think. Whatever brought you here, curiosity, a feeling you can't quite name, maybe something that cracked open recently or maybe a long time ago, you're in the right place. This series exists for exactly that, for all the feelings at whatever stage that you're at and whatever version of this journey is yours. If you don't know where to start, just reach out, subscribe for more coming in the series, and find Jenna and myself on both Instagram and Substack as well. Everything linked down below. Just don't forget you are never alone and cannot wait to hear from you. See you in the next one. Bye.